In a world where entertainment is viewed as mindless diversion, only good for momentary distraction, you are about to enter a new world, and you will never view entertainment in the same way again. This is Popcorn Theology.
Welcome, movie lovers and theology nerds, to this special Popcorn Theology series where we're exploring the Harry Potter movies for where they align with the greatest story and our greatest storyteller. I'm David Dursley.
And I'm Marcus McGonagall. And at this time, we're going to be discussing the first film, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which was released in 2001, directed by Chris Columbus. Now, this movie, we meet Harry Potter as he enrolls in Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. There he learns the truth about himself, his family, and the terrible evil that haunts the magical world.
At least some of the truth, right?
Well, yeah,
Excellent.
some.
Yeah. Otherwise, what are the rest of the books about, right? Excellent. So we are releasing minisodes on each of the Harry Potter films throughout the year 2026. So go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming episodes. And also, don't forget to like and share this episode if you enjoy what you hear. Share it with the Harry Potter fans in your life, or maybe some muggles that you want to convert over to being interested in these films or books. And consider supporting us on Patreon for just a few bucks a month, and you can access this whole series right away and get to participate in future polls. You know, you get to vote on monthly episodes, things like that, and so you can Axio episodes, if you will, get these ones right away.
That's right. So, Accio episodes. And we're going to drop the spoiler warning right now, since there's going to be no spoiler-free sections in the minisodes that we're doing here. And, the movies are pretty, well-known. So
yeah,
come on, folks.
Yeah, it's not like The Weekend After or anything like that. Additionally, I wanted to point out, if you're interested in discussion about, how on earth we as Christians can and should engage with stories like this, I'll point you to our first episode, the introduction to the Harry Potter series. We dive into that a bit more there. So, minisodes. Let's try and be as quick about this as we can, because we could easily spend hours on each one of these stories. But I wanted to... we got to do our ratings first. In Popcorn Theology, we rate two things. We rate the quality of the film, and we rate the quality of the themes and discussion within it. So first, the popcorn ratings. Marcus, what did you think? Did you think that this movie was stale, or was it fresh, or was it buttered and salted? And why?
For me, David, I'd say the film was so buttered and salted that I think I'm dehydrated. So I thought the visuals were spectacular. The blend of CGI with practical effects was great. Watching the movie today is still wonderfully rich. I think that speaks well to it. Not to mention, it's still just tons of fun. The score was incredible, and I think has enshrined itself among some of the most recognizable in cinema. And Alan Rickman, the most perfect Snape imaginable. So, yes. Buttered and salted.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I agree that the graphics were great. I mean, it was just the right use of special effects. It wasn't over reliant. It was just right. Yeah. And so for this first one, I'm gonna hold back a little bit, just because I want to make sure there's a ceiling there. I liked it. I thought it was fresh. I thought it was quite good. It effectively builds the world. It introduces the main characters, moves the story forward in a very efficient way. This first book was quite short compared to some of the other ones. There was, I think, a great economy of storytelling that was used. And of course, we can always chat about book to movie transitions as we go. That's always fun to do as well. But of course, a movie can only do so much. I thought that some of the other ones were much stronger in terms of the certainly the themes to discuss, which we'll get to in a moment, but also just the grippingness of the story. But again, my background in this sort of threw a whole big kibosh on this first movie. Go back to the first episode if you want to hear about my generational kind of feud that I got stuck as a pawn within. Big fun there. But I will say I was impressed, because this one does largely follow the book. I'm often surprised. I've just recently read the Harry Potter books for the first time, and I was shocked at how closely the books and movies align. That almost never happens. These are probably as close, if not closer, than the Lord of the Rings films, I think. I would say they're on par, in the same ballpark for sure. They followed them a lot more closely than I expected. Also, as a quick aside, Marcus, we were talking before in our previous minisode about the time frame of their release. How much time do you think there was between the first Harry Potter film and the first Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring? Unless you already looked it up.
No, they were both somewhere around the same year or two, weren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how much difference there were. I mean, I went to see The Lord of the Rings when it came out, but I didn't see Harry Potter at that time because, again, I was, a 26-year-old who didn't care about a wizarding, 11-year-old kid. So no, I don't really know the timing there.
I was shocked to look this back up as well because, again, I wasn't into it at the time either. November 16th, 2001 was when Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone released. December 19th, 2001 was Fellowship of the Ring. 33 days between these, which means they were you could likely go to one after the other in theaters. What a time. What a time to be alive.
What a great day at the theater. My goodness. Would have been great.
That would have been great. Certainly different from how things have been lately in the theaters. But in addition to the popcorn side, we also like to rate films based on their richness for themes for biblical discussion. So basically, is this something that you can use to bring up spiritual themes with your friends and with your neighbors? So when it comes to the themes in the Sorcerer's Stone specifically, would you say that the movie is diluted, not a lot to talk about, that it's carbonated, fair amount, or the cup runneth over, that you could spend hours just pouring over the finer points? So where would you rate this one?
On that scale, I'd say carbonated. It doesn't have like the most rich in depth themes, as you mentioned. Some of the other movies are going to be way more in terms of things to talk about. But it does have some good stuff. Love conquering evil, which, very common. But also one of the things I kind of liked about it is the kind of this just straight up white hats, black hats. Like you didn't have some morally ambiguous protagonist or somebody who had some sort of like really deep seated crisis of soul. Although technically, even though we have white hats and black hats, I think everybody's wearing black hats in the movie. So, but that's just a wizarding thing.
And at one point, even the same hat, right?
That's right. Sorting hat.
Exactly. No, I totally agree. There was that clarity that was refreshing, right? To have it be very clear, good guys and bad guys. And I really was not expecting that going into this. I thought it was going to be a lot more moral ambiguity. I will also say carbonated for this one. I think that there was a lot that gets introduced, but again, as with the popcorn rating, one movie that has so much world building to do can really only do so much in terms of theme and story. It introduces an unseen world, an unseen realm, the powers of good and evil, if you will, principalities and powers, as Scripture calls them. And so, yeah, I think that there is certainly stuff to talk about. But given where we know that this franchise goes, there are definitely, I think, some more cup runneth over movies that we'll get into later on in this series. And so, speaking of the unseen world, I was curious as we're going to basically explore a single theme, and then we're going to do a little bit of receive, reject, and redeem at the end as time permits. And so, Marcus, what was the big takeaway, if you will, from the Sorcerer's Stone or the Philosopher's Stone, if you will? And also, why the difference in name? Maybe you have some insight on that.
Sure. So when the first book came out in Britain, it was titled The Philosopher's Stone, but the American publisher didn't think that would sell well. So they decided to go with the term Sorcerer's Stone. Whatever. That was a mistake, just in terms of the way that Rowling is actually building things, because the book is about the Philosopher's Stone. And what is that thing? Well, this book and this movie, therefore, is all about alchemy. And when we think of alchemy, we think, oh, is people just, pro-chemists and weird people trying to turn lead into gold. That's an aspect. But alchemy is about transformations of character, transformations of material, transformation of essence. In our modern world, where we think in terms of standard chemistry and physics, alchemy is not a thing that can be done. But if we step back into the world of the pre-modern scientific realm, where everything is made up of the same kind of ultimate reality, then the transformation of that reality is an important aspect of Western writing, and much deeper than that, going into deep writings in 1000 BC type of thing. but we don't kind of pick that up. But this is where Rowling is really going with this. We have to think along alchemical lines. And by the way, medieval alchemy that she's pulling from was steeped in Christian thought. So this is going to be important. So let's kind of lay out a couple of things. Hermione tells us that the Philosopher's Stone is something that produces the elixir of life, right? It makes a person able to be immortal. It's also able to transform base metals into gold. So this was the goal of alchemists, was to develop this thing called the Philosopher's Stone. We find out that this was actually made by Nicholas Flamel, a noted alchemist, and was a good friend of Albus Dumbledore. Now, what's really interesting is that Nicholas Flamel is actually a historical character, a real historical person who was an alchemist back in like the 1400s. So Rowling is actually
he lived for 600 years.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
Something like that is 1500s, 1400s. So she's pulling from an actual historical alchemist and saying he succeeded and he has lived all the way up through to the point of Harry Potter. And Albus Dumbledore is also noted as a accomplished alchemist. And this is mentioned early on in the book and in the movie. We learned this from like Albus Dumbledore's little card. And so alchemy is really important. It's the title of the book, the movie, and the whole thing that everybody's looking for, right? What needs to be protected. So let's think about alchemy then. Alchemy has 3 steps, and these 3 stages set the stage literally for everything that happens in every single Harry Potter book. Every Harry Potter book is going to follow these 3 things in sequence, because this is the alchemical formula. This is what you had to do to try and work your way towards getting a Philosopher's Stone. The first part is what's called the black or negrito stage, negrito being the Latin word for black. This is where the base metal that you're working with, the material that is impure, is going to be dissolved. It's going to be burned. It's going to be putrefied. In some way, you're going to try to reduce this thing and extract away all of its imperfections and impurities. If you do that successfully, you might make it to the next stage, which is the white stage, called the albedo stage, where the remaining metal is washed, and if it's pure, it will be revealed as pure white, right? Then finally, if you are to succeed, you get to the red stage, the rubedo stage, where the material that was white is now congealed and worked together with sulfur and mercury compounds in the right way in order to create something that will emerge as red. That's the color of the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone is red. So the colors are important, not only for alchemy generally, but honestly for every single book and character in the Harry Potter series. And colors are tremendously important. They tell us something about the characters. So this is like one of those levels of depth that I had mentioned in the previous episode introducing it. Rowling's running on a couple of different layers of her storylines. And so you're going to get the fun stuff about, Harry overcoming and playing Quidditch and doing all the neat stuff and, succeeding. But then there's layers underneath. So that's sulfur wild. And mercury it's really pretty amazing. Sulfur and mercury are the 2 most important components because they represent opposites. In fact, in alchemy, they were called the quarreling couple. Now, if there's one thing that Ron and Hermione do all the time, it is bicker.
Quarrel.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. They are the 2 sides. And so I'm going to give you a couple of like super deep fun facts here that help us to see that this is what Rowling's really doing. So Ron is sulfur. He is the red, passionate, earthy, impulsive one, right? He's Bones for the Star Trek folks, right? So think if you got 3 people, you got Kirk's in the middle. He's got to balance Spock and Bones. We got the same thing going. Harry has got to balance Ron and Hermione. So Ron is sulfur. In fact, his middle name is Ron Bilious Weasley. Bilious is a Latin word for sulfur. So Rowling knows exactly what she's doing here. And Hermione is the mercury. She's silver. She's analytical. She's cold somewhat, and as far as emotionally cold and intellectual. In fact, her initials, what are her initials?
Hermione Granger, so HG.
Which is
Mercury.
Periodic table, Mercury. And her parents
I'm sure
are
Latin
dentists.
For Mercury, something, yeah.
Yes, it is. And her parents are dentists who are known throughout history for using mercury compounds for filling teeth. So like
Wild.
she's building some crazy stuff in here. So Harry himself is the base material that needs to be purified. And he has got to balance the influence of sulfur and mercury to properly navigate his own personal transformation. And since we've got
his initials are HP, which is nothing on the periodic
Hewlett
table.
Packard.
That comes
Yeah,
to
I
mind.
got.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I don't think that's a thing.
But what's his middle name?
James.
Yeah, which doesn't seem like anything until you find out that James.
That's also not on the periodic table.
No, it's not. But you refer to your supporters as
patron saints.
And James is the patron saint of alchemists, believe it or not. So here we've got sulfur, mercury, and an alchemist. And he has got to go through an alchemical transformation. And if you think like, is Rowling like the only one who ever does this? Like, no, this is Shakespeare. Shakespeare did this all the time with colors and names and things like that in order to move the audience through the personal transformation that the character is going through. And so we're going to go through this transformation with Harry. And so Harry's got the Harry, Ron, Hermione triad now is an important component because it's those three all the time. But that triad has got to be organized properly in order to navigate through the difficulties. Harry has got to lead. Hermione thinks, and Ron brings the willpower to get things done. And when these three are actually aligned, and in that order, it's got to be Harry, Hermione, Ron, actually, all things go well. And when they're not in that alignment, that's where the story is always in trouble. When Hermione is gone, or Ron is gone, or Ron is, raging in his hunger, his appetites, and things like that. And, or Harry's just not leading. This is when the stories are all frustrating and difficult and problematic and torturous. These are the troubled spots. And it takes these three kids to make it through all these trials to reach the mirror of erised. You need all three working together in the right way. And going through these things in a certain way. Like it's even Ron, who despite his passions shows high intellect as well, right? He leads them through the chess one, right? But he's the last one to go through. And he does it through also willpower. He's like, I'm going to sacrifice myself. Even though the other two don't want him to, he's like, no, it's got to happen. That's the willpower of Ron in there. And so when all three of them work together, Harry can get to the Philosopher's Stone, which is exactly what happens at the end of the first movie. So like that is, in a nutshell, right, the organizing principle of this book. And it's going to be the underlying theme for how all of the other books operate as well.
That is okay. I had no idea we were dealing with those levels here. Sounds like you need a background in the classics to truly appreciate and understand Harry Potter. It certainly wouldn't hurt, right?
Yeah, exactly. It really does. I mean, Rowling is incredibly well read. She's dug deep into history in order to write books at 3-4 levels here. Again, like we can all enjoy the books and watch the movie and get a great story. I mean, just on its surface level, these are incredibly well-written stories, but there's also reasons why they're so well-written. It's because she ties in certain aspects of the way the world really does work and the sort of redemption that our souls know that they need that brings us through the black, the white, and the red phase. Christianity is, as Tolkien said, the true myth, right? This is the true myth that answers why these myths out there resonate the way that they do when they're done properly.
Fantastic. I'm curious as well. You mentioned colors, and I guess now's as good a time as any to ask, do we see significance in the colors of the houses? Because we see red and gold, which I think fits with Sorcerer's Stone and the goal of alchemy being tied to gold. I don't know. Are you aware of any other significance to the other houses?
Absolutely. Just think of Slytherin now. So Slytherin is black and green, right? And black is the Negrito stage. It is the stage in which the material is going to be tried and dissolved and attacked, basically, right? What does Slytherin do? Slytherin is always on the attack against Gryffindor and kind of everybody else, right? Nobody likes Slytherin. Nobody wants to be part of Slytherin, except for bad people, it seems. And getting too far ahead of ourselves, but at the very end of all things in the series, Harry really is going to be able to bring about a unity among the houses in the next generation. But at this point, no. So yes, the colors are absolutely important. We get and the symbols for the houses themselves are also important. So I'll just pick the two most obvious ones: Gryffindor and Slytherin. So we've got a griffin. Well, no, actually, the symbol for Gryffindor is just the lion, right? Jesus is the Lion of Judah, and the lion is a traditional symbol for Christ throughout Christianity. So is the griffin. The name Gryffindor means griffin of gold, griffin d'or in French. And the griffin is also a Christian symbol because the eagle is the lord of the sky, and the lion is the lord of the land. Jesus is the lord of heaven and earth. And so historically in Christian medieval times and going forward, the griffin was a symbol of Jesus Christ. There are actually loads of different symbols for Christ, but that was one of them. So you get the lion, you get the griffin. On the other end, you get Slytherin, and their symbol is it's a snake, right?
Pretty straightforward.
You don't get a whole kind of, okay, so we've got Jesus and Satan here. And again, not that Salazar Slytherin really was Satan. He wasn't. But symbolically, we've got the opposition of the forces of good and the forces of evil here. And the colors are important. Red and gold are the colors. Gold, the color of kings. Red, the color of blood, like that was shed by Christ. Green, the color of lizards and snakes and things like that. And also, we tend to associate it with poisons and stuff like that. There is absolutely importance to the colors of the houses. There's importance to the colors of the individual characters and even some of their names. So I'll put up two here because we're coming close on our time. But Albus Dumbledore, his name means white. And Dumbledore probably means something like bumblebee. But anyway, he's the white character, right? And he wears white robes. Yeah, bumblebees. But he represents purity. He has been purified. And at the other end, we get someone like Rubeus Hagrid. He's red. Now, that doesn't mean he's actually made it to the pure stage. It's actually to represent a little bit more of his redness and passions and hot-headedness, right? He drinks a little too much. He's very emotional. He gets really angry, especially if anybody slights Dumbledore. So, yes, the colors that are everywhere in the books and the movies are actually carrying freight as we go through.
Wow. Definitely I may have to read these books again after taking some notes during this series. I'm learning a lot. Well, we are low on time, so we're going to do a quick round of reject, receive, and redeem. Within any story, there are themes that we as Christians should keep an arm's length from and say, okay, this is something that the story advocates that we should not do. And so, Marcus, anything come to mind that is worth rejecting from Sorcerer's Stone?
Reject the Dursleys all the time. Anything they do.
They're just the best. I'm sorry, just as a quick aside, I don't think I've ever seen characters so quickly and so efficiently make you hate them. They're just in the book and in the movies. You're just like, man, these are despicable people. They're the worst. Just so quick.
They are
just right out the gate. The worst.
So, kidding aside, there, I'd say the one thing that I would say that it's a little bit, that I might say let's reject is how adults generally are portrayed as distant, both physically and emotionally, right? Harry's an orphan. He's at a boarding school. All the kids are at boarding school. All the kids are potentially dead at almost any movie at any time, right? There's everybody is unperturbed that there's life-threatening danger posed to even small children, right? Quidditch is a horrible sport.
Oh my gosh.
The Forbidden Forest is where people get sent all the time. Fluffy, I mean, good heavens, right? What are you doing? And so, especially as a parent, right? I don't want my kids thinking this way about adults. We need to be present with them, to love them, to nurture them, to protect them. I think, part of that is also like, if we read through, this is not the way a parent should be, right? But still, these kids are just left to fend for themselves. Now it's kid fiction on one sense, so I get that you want to be the hero, but I would say that's one aspect of like, no, I'd much rather see some adults that are far closer. We get so few of those in this series.
Yeah, and especially in this first book, this first film in the series. Yeah. I think we got some great examples of righteous parenting later, both by biological parents and others. But yeah, in this first one, it's like, who's the worst person? Is it that guy or is it that guy? Because at this point, again, we haven't even talked about Quirrell or Snape or any of that stuff. But I mean, it's all part of a larger story. Yeah, as far as reject, I mean, I think that we covered it pretty well in our introductory video, but, this notion of toying with magic in the real world, taking it lightly, I think that the movie actually does a good job pointing out why that is so dangerous, because they're playing with live ammo here, right? It's not just fun, fun and games, if you will. This is serious stuff. But what about themes that we can receive from a Christian worldview, or perhaps kind of tweak perspective? I think I'll start with this one, because one that really jumps out to me is this unseen world, right? Because it's not like Harry is removed from the time. He doesn't travel through time. He doesn't, in a sense, he travels to a time that's very different, right? They're still using gold coins. They don't use electricity, things like that. But for the most part,
yeah.
Right. What is the function of the rubber duck? And so there's all these aspects that harken back to an older time, but these are neighbors of modern Londoners, if you will. And so there's this unseen world that's running alongside everything that's happening now. What does that sound like? Right? There's this idea of an unseen world that impacts our lives. Harry is called from a existence where he has no purpose, no history that is of any significance or meaning. He has no value to the family that is supposed to be caring for him. And everything is mundane, but then he is called out of that. He is called to a larger adventure, the hero's journey that you mentioned earlier. He's called from this broken world, drawn into a world that makes sense of his past, his present, and his future, right? His parents, who he's told just died in a car crash and he got a scar from it, just a senseless, crap happens kind of death. It turns out that they died to save him from evil, to protect him with their love. He's no longer unloved and unwanted. He finds that his family did care deeply for him, and he gets a new family and a new mentor, for that matter, a father figure in Dumbledore and various other characters in their own right. He's given remarkable gifts. He gets answers to the questions as to why he's a poor fit for the world that he lives in. And he gets a calling to help play a role in redemption of that world. I mean, I think that there's a lot in there, but I think we get a decent image of the place of a new Christian, right? We talked about Harry being a convert, but also being a Christ figure. Obviously, we're not Christ figures, but we get that role of a convert. And there's so much about this story that just mirrors and parallels what we see Ephesians 6:12, right? So we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places, right? And so we're not battling in this world just against people. We're battling against ideas and against principalities. And I think that this story does a good job of illustrating, something comparable to that. Anyway, so yeah, thoughts, other redeem or receive points.
Oh, those are fantastic. Boy. Obviously the main theme of this particular book and movie and the whole series is that love is more powerful than evil, and that sacrificial love has the capacity to save. I mean, that is something that we can, embrace fully. Like, we learn this from Lily's sacrifice that saved Harry. In this book, in this film, we find that Harry nearly dies to protect others. And in fact, a nice little note that unfortunately didn't make it into the movie, but is in the book, is after Harry goes down and faces Quirrell de Mort, right, in the basement. When he is knocked unconscious, in the book, it says he woke up 3 days later. right? So like you're like 3 days, huh? 3 days he was kind of in the grave. Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, that was one of those first ones when I was reading it, and I'm like, wait a minute, right? She's doing something here.
That's wild.
So yeah, in the movie, it's just knocked out, you wake up again type of thing. But that's what's that's going on, and that's something we can totally embrace. I think this journey to I think a second one is that the journey to a transformed soul is both personal as well as corporate, right? That you and I individually, we have to study, we must reflect, meditate on the scriptures, we must act out righteousness at a very personal level. We have to do it. And yet we also cannot grow in Christ in isolation, because the gifts of the Holy Spirit are distributed to different people. So we need the church to help us as we develop to become more and more like Christ, as we become those little Christs that Christians are supposed to be. So I think those are some things that we see in the film that we can mirror, that it's, not that it takes a village, but no, it takes a church. And it takes more than me to follow Christ. I will do it on my own for as long as possible, or as long as I need to, but it will happen with great success when we work together.
Absolutely. I think as well, just along those same lines, that the importance of that corporate aspect doesn't mean that everyone's always going to get along and that everyone's going to be on the same page. There's going to be a need for correction, and even scripture points out there's an entire process for church discipline and for calling believers back to righteous living. And it just, that kind of reminds me of what's probably one of my favorite lines from the entire series, is at the end of this first book is, Dumbledore is kind of giving points back to the houses to tip the scales a little bit, and what seemed a little shady to me. But anyway, and as he's doing that, he says, it takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to your enemies, but a great deal more to stand up to your friends. And he's talking about Neville there, because Neville's like, guys, don't make this worse again. I'll fight you. And Neville's just this
we're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm like, I freaking love Neville. Neville's the best. And the other books expand on why Neville's so great. But in any case, this idea of how much courage it takes to stand up to your friends. I mean, man, like, not just in the sort of realm of peer pressure, saying no to drinking, things like that, but to actually call out your friends and loved ones when they are living in when they're living in a way that is contrary to what scripture calls us to. And that's not an easy thing to do. And that's where that corporate aspect, I mean, Neville's trying to call them back in a way that isn't necessarily the most helpful story-wise, but we do see the importance of that courage within the rest of the stories as well. So
yeah,
there's so much more.
Neville. Oh, he's
gotta love it.
Boy, and it's just, he's not exactly invisible, but he's such a minor character with no great graces going for him for about 4 books, and then like Neville just hits his stride, and by the end it's beast mode Neville, and you're like, I love this kid.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Man. And as a quick aside, we talked about the Mirror of Erised, which it took me entirely too long. Maybe it's because it was an audiobook. Maybe it's because I'm dumb. That's desire spelled backwards for anyone who, like me, totally missed that.
Oh, sweet. Nice catch.
Oh, so
nice.
So obvious to anyone who read it on paper, probably. But anyway, this I think we see a really good image there that, of course, Harry is drawn to it because of his, because of what he is desiring, what it is he misses, his family. But Dumbledore, warns him that, this mirror doesn't give us knowledge or truth. Men have wasted away in front of it, even gone mad. It does not do to dwell on dreams, Harry, and forget to live. And that's certainly something that we can be called to as believers, is that, we can easily lose ourselves to our own desires when really we need to surrender those desires to Christ. And of course, this story is not going to, put it in those terms, but to dwell on dreams and forget to live with purpose, to live to the calling to which we were redeemed. That is what the gospel's about. And we do see some wonderful glimpses of that in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So, yeah. Fantastic.
Well, I suppose that's it for this movie, and time for all of us to take the Hogwarts Express back to platform 9 3/4. So
Toot, toot.
join us next time, yes, as we drop in for Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. See the release schedule in the show notes and support Popcorn Theology on Patreon and get access to the full series right now.
That's right. And until next time, keep engaging films, books, and magic, maybe, from a godly worldview. And remember, you are not a mindless consumer. Thanks for watching this episode of Popcorn Theology. For more content, subscribe on YouTube. Follow and interact on social media to help broaden the conversation. Check out our archive of past episodes at popcorntheology.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. And consider becoming a patron saint by supporting us on Patreon, which lets you interact, influence, and enjoy exclusive bonus content.